Good
Good
evening,
evening,
social
social
media
media
land.
land.
Make
Make
sure you
sure you
share,
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 share.
share.
Invite
Invite
someone
someone
to
to
listen
listen
in.
in.
We will
We
be
will be
getting
getting
started
started
in
in
just
just
a
a
moment.
moment.
I hear nothing.
Thank you
Thank you
guys for
guys for
tuning
tuning
in. It's
in.
going
It's
to be a
going to be a
great
great
show.
show.
We're
We're
about to
about to
get
get
started.
started.
And
And
here we
here we
go.
go.
Greetings,
Greetings,
greetings.
greetings.
Welcome to
Welcome to
Hearts
Hearts
and
and
Heels.
Heels.
I
I
am
am
one of
one of
your
your
co
co
hosts,
hosts,
Shay
Shay
Robinson.
Robinson.
It
It
is
is
a
a
beautiful
beautiful
Thursday
Thursday
evening to
evening to
share
share
with
with
us.
us.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much
much
for
for
tuning
tuning
in.
in.
Remember,
Remember,
you can
you can
always
always
follow
follow
us
us
live
live
at
at
Hearts and
Hearts and
Heels,
Heels,
the
the
number
number
one on
one on
social
social
media.
media.
That's
That's
Facebook,
Facebook,
Twitter,
Twitter,
Instagram, and
Instagram, and
YouTube.
YouTube.
Get
Get
connected
connected
to
to
us
us
so we
so
can
we can
know
know
more
more
about
about
you.
you.
Again, it's
Again,
a
it's a
wonderful
wonderful
Thursday. We
Thursday. We
have a
have a
great
great
show.
show.
As you
As you
know,
know,
we've
we've
been
been
talking
talking
about,
about,
fighting
fighting
through
through
your
your
storms.
storms.
And
And
we've
we've
had
had
several
several
great
great
shows.
shows.
I'm
I'm
excited
excited
about
about
our
our
guest
guest
tonight.
tonight.
And
And
of
of
course,
course,
we
we
have
have
Yolanda
Yolanda
that's
that's
with
with
us.
us.
Hello,
Hello,
Yolanda.
Yolanda.
How are
How are
you?
you?
Yes.
Yes.
To get to know about you, how did you come from, I think, your assignment here is Richmond, Virginia. How did you get here and tell us a little bit about you and your background?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, ladies, for having me. You have a very inspirational show. Um, when I got the call to participate in this, there was no question that I was going to participate in anything for believers, so that my light could shine and possibly pass on some words of wisdom to the listeners. So, first of all, thank you for having me. And just a little bit about me. My trajectory in the public housing arena. I've been involved in this business, public and affordable housing, since 1992. So coming up on a 30-year anniversary. And it's been a long journey, but one that I'm grateful for, thankful for my path. And recently I was in Richmond, redevelopment of authority, as you mentioned. Was only there for just a little over a year, and this opportunity became available, and it just worked out better for myself and my family. But I've been to a number of cities. I don't plan to stay in Montgomery. Well, it's already been over a year. It was a year, May 4th, that I started here. So time really flies. Taking over agency during the pandemic is something new.
New for all
Uh,
of us.
yeah, new for all of us. And I'm just thankful to be here, thankful to be leading the agency. Met a lot of great people and look forward to the great work.
Well, I know that you have already started a great work, but we want to continue with our theme about faith through the fight, and there were some challenges that you interviewed with Shay about that kind of led you to thrive and to support people in just say um, less or low economic communities. What is that like? Has been like for you to want to bring your expertise and to the community to help out?
Well, basically, it's my ministry to be able to give and help underserved communities that suffer from years of various disparities, educational disparities, uh, social, economic disparities in housing, obviously, and just be able to leave something behind. No spring chicken anymore, north of 50. I'm not going to tell you exactly how old.
Okay, we won't talk about age.
You're right. We want to ask you how old you are.
But you know, you just get to a point, you know, where you've been able to, when you're young, you get out of school, you want to secure the bag, as the young people say, right? You want to secure the bag. So once you're able to do that confidently, you take care of your family, raise a family. My children are all grown now, able to take care of themselves. And now it's less about chasing money and more about leaving the world a better place than you found it. Uh, because you know the time is short. The pandemic has showed us that take nothing for granted. So I truly don't, and I just want to leave something. I want to help revitalize communities, help revitalize lives, give people an opportunity that they didn't otherwise have. So I believe that's my ministry. That's my calling. There have been other opportunities to take on other career paths. We were talking just before we went live here about you ready to do something else, you know. And I thought about that, and my doing something else will probably be the same type of work, but not on somebody's payroll, you know, just kind of volunteering, serving on a board or something like that, but making sure that, you know, the underserved communities have an opportunity to get a piece of the pie, you know, anything that is within my power, my wherewithal. That's what I hope to leave. That's what I hope my legacy will be.
And that's a good way to look at life. But sometimes, you know how we get involved in some things that are our passion. What happened in your life? Some challenges, some obstacles that you face that you say, you know what, I got to do it for others. I want to pave the way. So let's talk about that a little bit before we dive into more with the Montgomery Housing Authority. Let's talk about that personal challenge,
Yeah.
obstacles and hurdles that you had to overcome.
I don't know if y'all got enough,
We have
Well,
enough time.
enough time on this show.
We do. We do.
Like I said, I was north of 50, but you know, I believe Job says that a man that is born of a woman is a few days and they're full of trouble. And with that, you know, he has blessed us to be overcomers, and not only overcomers for our own benefit, but primarily for the testimony and for the benefit of others. So my life has certainly been challenging. When you guys originally posed that question, you sent the questions over to us.
right.
And yes, they have sent the questions over in advance, a few of them, anyways. My most recent challenging experience, when you talk about going through the storm, was when I lost both of my parents within about 75 days of one another late in 2017.
Mm.
That was by far the most challenging um, event that has ever happened to me. A lot earlier than I had anticipated in the early 70s, and they just left me back to back, total shock. And you know, just talking about it kind of make me have to take a moment, but because it's still fresh, you know. And but what happened was I tried to go back to work and show the staff because you know I was CEO of a housing authority at that time as well. Show the staff that you know, as a leader, you know, I can take a blow and come in and still lead. Uh, but I did not realize that I was not as effective as I once was.
Mm.
But had not been for my loving wife, who was relentless on finding me mental health counseling therapy. I eventually did do that. I think I went to therapy for about 90 days, and it helped significantly. And then it just kind of got to the point where it felt like when it was time, when Friday came around, I knew I had to go to therapy, and I started to dread it. So it was almost like a wound was forming, was healing, like ripping the scab off.
Mm.
All the time.
And I realized, okay, it's time to stop going. But as fate would have it, they had asked me to lead a men's counseling session and all that. I tell you, every time I open my mouth, somebody asks me to do something
But
else.
that's how awesome
Yeah.
That's how God works. Yeah.
He used you in the point of your weakness. He said that He's made strong, and so every time when I'm going through, it's look like I have more assignments to come, and that's to keep me strong, keep my faith rooted and grounded in Him. So that's the way, the will of God. That's just the way He works.
Yeah, and it's just like exercise.
Yeah.
The more weight you have to put on the barbell or the dumbbell or whatever, or the pulley, whatever it is you're using. The elastic bands, you need the thicker ones, because you can handle more. And so the scriptures say He won't put more on you than you can bear. So, but I tell you, it can be a Herculean task sometimes going through these challenges.
It is.
Even though you know that other folks have to deal with the loss of their parents, especially when you approach middle age. I mean, you expect that and anticipate that, but nothing really prepares you for that, especially if you have the type of relationship where you love your parents. I mean, my parents were together. I loved them. My brother and I loved them, and no family is without challenges, but but we loved each other, talked to each other on a regular basis, and just a tough time. And shout out to Fred and Joanne Duncan, uh, raising two wonderful boys, educated, God-fearing, wonderful family.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Now, I love how one thing you said is that you mentioned that you wanted to show your team at the time that you were still leading the way. And I want to talk about that because what I hear a lot, what I've heard just from the few minutes that you've been talking is how leadership has played so much in a part of your life and how it has really pushed you into those spaces and places because you are naturally born or blessed with that talent and that ability to mentor through. Tell me, and I know you mentioned that you remember that you were not as effective, but what was the moment for you? When we love to talk about, we love to find out these defining moments. I want to know, what was your defining moment where you said, you know what, I am not effective anymore? Because I think that's important as we talk about leadership. You always have to remember, look at what you're doing, what you're not doing, and how it's impacting those around you. What was your defining moment?
It's hard to say if there was a singular moment, but I do know that because my leadership style is one that I joke about this all the time. I have an open door policy. Folks that constantly walk me in are very engaging. I see my role as an inverted org chart. With myself at the bottom, supporting the agency, allowing the work to continue, expediting things, signing off on things. It got to the point where I didn't really care about the job. Now,
Mm,
show up and park in my parking spot intentionally so that the folks, my staff could see, say, okay, he here, if he can push through this and make it, surely I can push through uh, having a cold or stubbing my toe or something like that, primarily leading by example. But, I wasn't wearing suits and all of that. And I didn't even realize it. And
mm-hmm.
until one day I heard somebody whisper, "You got on the suit today." And I was like, wow, I hadn't been wearing suits. And I guess for the staff, it's just a visible sign that, okay, you're just starting to feel better. And really, really had a great staff. I've had great staff everywhere that I've gone. I've never left any place where the folks wanted me to leave. I'm still great friends with a lot of my staff at the places that I served before. But there was no singular moment, just a sense of, just not really caring. Things really didn't matter. What's the point? All of that just really kind of, crowded my spirit. I
Mm-hmm.
tried to read the word, but the word just wasn't connecting with me. And I would even tell people at the time, I said, hey, I love the Lord, but me and Jesus, we just ain't been seeing eye to eye lately.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think that comment alone says a lot and can speak to a lot of people because I've definitely had those moments like we're not in agreement. I don't know why he's doing this. I don't understand this. And when I read his word, it's making no sense. It's no comfort. It's no anything there. But I think that's a telling moment about your faith that even in that you were able to push through. You said this quote and I thought it was really powerful because when we interviewed, I just wanted to, really get to know you. And I'm glad we did.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Felicia Martin for making that happen. Hey, Felicia. um, But you stated that you don't believe in bad experiences. You just believe that life brings you experiences. Tell us, how is your faith shown through that?
Well, it is, when I said that, it is more than just wordplay. I believe either you win or you learn. I mean, to say something is bad is to suggest that, you don't believe that all things work together for the good. So as a believer, there's certain things that the world speaks about, and people say you have to denounce that,
Yeah.
speak life and death to the power of the tongue, and so I really respect that. And I try to maintain a positive outlook, even when I'm not feeling it in my spirit, put it out into the universe with my mouth, especially being, leader of an organization, leader of various committees, the priest in my home. So I have to speak positivity. Um, and then sometimes, the spirit may have to catch up with that.
Mm-hmm.
I just believe that I embody that, not just words that I say, but either you win or you learn, and everything is a learning experience, in my opinion. There's a lesson in everything.
What does Damon E. Duncan speak to himself to get him moving, or to help him through those moments where faith is hard?
I got a saying that I say to people that you can have courage or you can have comfort, but you can't have both, not at the same time.
Hmm.
So when faced with daily challenges, either you're going to be courageous or you're going to sit back and rest on your laurels and read the news clippings or the headlines for what you done yesterday, or you're going to get up today and face new challenges and take on new tasks and new experiences. Speaking of new experiences, we were joking earlier about me being from Detroit, USA, and I've lived in a number of cities. Lived in Flint, Michigan, Pontiac, Michigan, born and raised in Detroit, lived in Atlanta, Richmond, Virginia, a number of cities. This work, because there's not a housing authority like there's a high school in every community.
Right.
You pretty much have to go to a different city if you want to move up in this housing authority game. And so I've done that. That does not come without sacrifice on behalf of my family. My wife, shout out to Mary Duncan, put up with me and tolerated me for 30 years and moving and and it took some maturity for me to understand that, women like basic things,
Amen.
security, safety, that's both physically, financially, and all that touchy feely, all that kind of stuff would come after those things.
How long did it take you to learn that?
I know.
It took me a while. I
Uh-huh.
didn't arrive then. I've been married since I was 23 when we got married. My wife was 24. We were young, started a young family, and it took some time to grow and mature into that. And, I had to unlearn some things. My parents are from a generation where things weren't quite, it wasn't, put your wife first. And, midway through, I'd say about midway through, about 15 years through, I really, uh, started to embrace the word, study the word, became a minister. Uh, and I really looked at the scripture that talked about husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church. And so when I thought about that, I thought about the fact that the Bible doesn't command the wife to love the husband. It just said, obey your husband. And so, and the Spirit
Hmm.
revealed to me that if a man is doing what he's supposed to do, then she can't help herself.
But
It's easy.
but to love him back. That's
Yeah.
right.
So the word doesn't have to speak to that. That's going
That's
to take care of itself. And once I really, so I started to go through the motion, but I really didn't believe it. But once my spirit embraced it and believed it, I started to put my wife first, and everything that I did, every move that I made was for her first, not children first, not grandchildren, anything like that, but to uplift her. uh, Things really began to shift, not only in our household, but in our finances, in our relationship. And, God has blessed us. I mean, we've been to, all four corners of the world and seen things that, had experienced that a number of people don't get an opportunity to experience. I heard She put her career on back burner for years while we moved from place to place to place. Now she's blessed to have completed a doctorate degree and opening up a speech clinic here
Okay.
in the next
It's
few
wonderful.
weeks. God has really blessed us, and He continues to bless us. And I think it's largely because I have my household in order. I'm the priest of my home. I provide for my family. I put my wife first.
I need you to speak loudly into the microphone when you say that.
I know. Look,
Hey,
we
hey,
love this
we-
kind of gentleman
yes,
talk in the
hey,
studio.
this
We do.
studio is full of sisters. I ain't saying
Yeah.
that just to, but I'm putting my brothers on notice because I mean, to get the community back in order, there's an orderly way that God has intended for things to be. We're losing control of our communities because men are not taking their rightful place. And so, that's another conversation for another time. But it's in that spirit that I say what I say, and I try to live. So, shout out to to all the brothers out there trying to make it happen. But you have to embody putting self last and sacrificing to take care of your family. If that's in fact the road that you try to go down. So there's really been a tremendous blessing for me, and I say that every chance I get.
Well, I love it, and I need you to continue to say that and speak it loud and proud.
Mhm.
And that your words alone are powerful, and it would affect that very man. So let's segue. Listen, we are having this great conversation with Mr. Damian E. Duncan. He is the Chief Executive Officer for the Montgomery Housing Authority. Let's talk a little bit about that and the things you said when you got here. You hit the ground running. It's been a year. And I read a quote that said he is a change agent. Let's talk about the changes and the effect that you've made since you arrived on our royal, rich soil of Alabama.
Oh yeah. Well, shout out to Chairman John Knight, who we were talking about earlier before we went on the air, for believing in me and enticing me to come and interview for the position, and the board for selecting me. But tremendous opportunity, tremendous city, awesome agency. The previous executive director, Ms. Hester, shout out to Ms. Hester, done a tremendous job. As you guys know, locally, a couple of public housing developments been redeveloped. The plazas at Centennial Hill, Columbus Square 1 and 2, and a number of things have been put in place that made this a very attractive job to come into, because the community embraced rather change associated with public housing. So that's not a given. That doesn't happen everywhere.
Mhm.
So when we hit the ground, it was kind of difficult to have a lot of meetings and to meet a lot of people because it was right at the beginning. I think we went into shutdown mode for the pandemic, like the mid to late March, and I started to come into the office beginning of May. Staff wasn't coming in; just a few of us were coming in, and didn't get a chance to meet all of them right away, and not able to get out and meet a lot of the city leaders and community organizers and non-for-profit executive directors and all of that. And but we went about the business of trying to secure some grant dollars so that we could go down the path of revitalizing Patterson Court. I've known about Patterson Court for years. I've come back and forth to Montgomery for a number of years. And anytime you go from city to city and you're in this industry, you always look for the public housing. You look to see, that's your way, your report card for how the housing authority is doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so with the Patterson Court directly adjacent to Alabama State, it was, I always wondered about that. I wondered how that affected the HBCUs. Shout out to Dr. Ross, ASU. Go Hornets, go Hornets.
Go
So,
Hornets.
and then as I started to dig a little deeper, I know the style housing that Patterson Court is. The barrack style is an extremely obsolete layout. The floor plans are obsolete. The configuration doesn't work. The units themselves, a lot of issues. Patterson Court, a lot of people don't know it, but Patterson Court is the third public housing development that was built in the USA.
Really?
Wow.
37. As a matter of fact, the housing authority wasn't chartered here until 1939. So Patterson
Wow.
Court predates the housing authority. and it's named after the ASU president, second president, Dr. William Patterson, I believe. And so we set about the business of trying to figure out how to revitalize that. HUD puts out a Choice Neighborhoods grant opportunity, which is a planning grant opportunity to help communities plan and engage the community, raise dollars so that you can go about the business of revitalizing distressed public housing and the adjacent neighborhoods that have been affected by the public housing.
Mm-hmm.
So we went about that business, and uh, through the grace of God, we're able to secure a coveted grant. On the 11 awards were made throughout the country. Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. One of the first conversations I had with Mayor Reed, shout out to Mayor Reed, first African American mayor, brother of the Omega
I know.
Psi
I knew
Phi
you was going to go
fraternity.
there. I knew it.
Hey, that,
This has been a huge year for y'all.
the bros are showing out.
I know.
Okay, the bros are
So, in
showing.
case you were wondering, he
Shout
is a
out to
part of the Omega
Reed.
Psi Phi fraternity.
That's awesome. And those guys, they really embrace me, and not just because of the fraternity, but
The
we have
word.
common goals as it relates to the community. And Mayor Reed asked about the Choice Neighborhoods opportunity. Say, can we secure this? Is this something we can do? I assured him that it was something that we could do, and we were able to do it. HUD came and presented us with the large ceremonial check in at the top of the year in January, and it just is kind of the commencement of things to come. So we're looking forward to transforming Patterson Court and the surrounding Centennial neighborhood.
So when will that transformation begin? When will you begin to break ground and move the people out? I know that's a lot of working parts, moving parts that must take place. So can you tell us a little bit about how that's going to look in the near future?
Well, the first thing before we get to all of that is you got to have faith that that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Faith. The Bible says faith without works is what?
Dead. Mm-hmm.
Some people believe that you can have faith without works. Some people believe you can have works without faith. But the two are inseparable. They go together. They're in harmony and symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have our faith, and now it's time to get to the work. Um, the community engagement process has started. A resident group have branded themselves the Patterson Innovators. They had a kickoff a couple of weeks ago right there on the site. Yep, Patterson Innovators. I mean,
Yes.
take it, right?
Right.
So what the planning grant is designed to do, a 24-month planning process where you can secure leverage dollars from the city, from the county, uh, state finance agency to raise the money, and then you go for the $30 million implementation award. That's the second step to the Choice Neighborhoods that we're putting ourselves in a position to compete for in mid 2023 or toward the end of 2023. We're going through the process of selecting a master planning firm, much like the city has to do their comprehensive plans and that sort of thing. So we're making a selection there, and that's really going to kick off a series of community engagements, town hall meetings, a lot of ideas being plastered on the wall, and making those ideas, trying to achieve something that's financially viable to do. I think we'll be very, very successful. So that's the process that started. Someone asked me, what's my vision? And I said, my vision is to facilitate a process where the residents have better quality home. Now, what that looks like is up to the families that we serve. I don't have a particular vision in that regard. My vision is to bring the resources and facilitate a process. So I'm just an agent, in the process, try to make this community better than I found it.
So I just want to make sure we're clear. The community can play a role in what the new development will look like. What will happen there? Okay, great.
Well, not the community can play a role. The community, the residents, are the nucleus, the centrality of the planning process. So there's a difference in can play a role and is the center of the facilitation of it. So I want to be very clear in that. take community engagement very, very serious. Like I said, I've lived in a lot of different cities, and basically that makes me an outsider, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you can't come to a community and tell the people what they want, tell them what they need, or tell them, how to do this, that, and the other. But what you can do is present a realm of possibilities and bring the resources so that their possibilities can come to a reality.
Wow, that's great. That sounds amazing. So remember, Nucleus, that you have to speak up and say, I love it. It's the Patterson Innovators. So I want to talk to you about this. When you were talking about the new project and everything that's going on, let me say this: congratulations for your leadership through this pandemic, because for you to and not just you, I know it was your team. It was not just you, but you and your team to accomplish this goal. That is amazing. So the city of Montgomery and everybody around, just thank you for your continued work in that. I want to talk about the residents. How will you support the residents through this transition? Now, I know that some of them will have to leave and come back. And what are some ways that you are, because you're a family man. You talked about your family and your wife, and which is a loving story. We're gonna have to get some stories from your wife really soon. But let's talk about the
Yeah, I'm telling you, talking about somebody that don't believe in no microphones in places where I'm supposed to give a farewell speech or something.
right.
Come on the stage and they want her to say a few words, and she just shake her head and say, "He said it all." Definitely a behind the scenes person. She's got a lot to offer. I'm trying to encourage her in that way, but she's a little shy in that regard. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll
Maybe
definitely have to do that.
God can do anything.
He can. But how will you support the residents as you get ready to roll out with the next phases of this thing, and then we get to building? What are some things that you are hoping to lead us through?
Well, it's important to understand that when you're talking about revitalization, especially for low income families, that's a very, very scary topic to discuss. There's a lot of fear, trepidation. There can be resistance if it's not done properly, if communication doesn't happen properly. So the key term is communication.
Mm.
Let the residents know what their rights are. Um, Before I left Richmond Redevelopment Authority, there's a lot of mistrust with the housing authority that had built up over the years, and made it very difficult to get something done. But one of the things I was proud to be able to get done, I put together was what I called a resident bill of rights. And what it listed was a series of promises that the housing authority would undertake, responsibilities that the residents would undertake, and that resident bill of rights got signed off by the mayor, by the chairman of the board, by the housing authority CEO, myself, by the chairperson of the resident uh,
Hmm.
area-wide resident organization, the city council person that was the district person for the particular development. And that was just one step toward making sure that whoever the mayor was, whoever the CEO of the housing authority was, the resident had these rights in writing. So the sense of mistrust is not as pervasive here as it is there, but anytime you're disrupting people's lives, you're talking about moving them, and in many cases, moving them twice, uh, moving them to a side of town where it might have been some issues. And when you're talking public housing, the public housing move, sometimes there's some rival things that are happening, and it's not always safe. So you got to look at all of that. But the main thing, you got to communicate with the residents what their rights are, what the financial implications are. And these moves have a $0 financial implication to the resident. The housing authority picks up 100% of the moving costs, utility disconnect and reconnect, give stipends, provide moving supplies, boxes, tape, packing peanuts, bubble wrap, all that stuff. We hire movers or pay stipends, family members that want to move their own household items. And so we provide the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development through the Uniform Relocation Act, the URA, which is a Department of Transportation Act, uh, really provides a lot of rights. And I like to go above and beyond with the basic uh, services or the basic rights that the
Mm-hmm.
residents have because we really care. We're really compassionate and empathetic about the disruption of. I know when I moved from place to place, I dreaded it. Sometimes you even decide if you even want to buy a house because you
Right.
don't feel like moving. When you start mentally going through the process. Okay, I got some stuff in storage.
You want to declutter.
You just like, you know what? Let's stay here a little while longer.
Right.
And so just imagine if your resources are limited. You don't know
Mm-hmm.
what the housing authority is doing. All you know is in the past, when change happens, poor people get the worst of it.
Yeah.
That you know. So those disparities, things that have happened historically start to resurface again. Just like 85 is a highway that divided the Centennial Hill community, like it did in a lot of cities, creating division and the displacement that went along with that. Businesses, disrupted businesses. Some people are never able to get back on their feet. So
Mm-hmm.
our responsibility is to make sure that residents, first of all, are informed and they have the proper support. Some of them need counseling. Some of them need supportive services to help them manage their finances. And we want them to come back to the revitalized community in better shape than they were when they left.
How many families are in the Patterson Court area?
We have 200 units, and that's about 50% families and about 50% elderly. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize there are a lot of seniors that are in Patterson Court, and
Hmm.
we do this thing called Walk with the CEO, and that's my way of getting myself and my staff out into the
I like
community,
that. Mm-hmm.
and we knock on doors, and we just say, hey, how are things going? Is the housing authority, doing a good job? What can we do better? How do you feel about revitalization? And so one of the things we ask the seniors is, how would you like to live in a mid-rise, enclosed environment, with a community room and some other amenities? And most of them prefer a family townhome style.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Kind of like the one, I don't know this area, but it's like Adams, in that Adams Avenue
mhm,
area, similar
mhm.
to that. Okay.
Yep, yep. And
That would be Centennial.
you're thinking about the high rise.
Yes.
You think the high rise is the terrace, Richardson Terrace.
Okay.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
real close. I mean, a half a block from Centennial, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But in that type of environment, I tried to get my parents to move out of single family home and into a facility and a lot of folks that are used to being in a home, they got
Mm-hmm.
little gardens and all that kind of little stuff and
Yes.
patient stuff and a front porch of their own, and they
They
can
like
sit
the
out there
garden. They
and
like to have their own personal garden too.
yeah, porch and be nosy too.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
But they prefer that, but it's not always the best for our seasoned saints who are from one year to the next. Their needs can change significantly, and without them even realizing. I mean, they stubborn and set in their ways. And matter of fact, my mama told me, she said I ought to be able to die in my own house if I want to. Now, how you gonna argue with that?
You
Somebody
can't.
that
You
bought their
cannot.
own house, but anyway, we want to make these type of facilities available for the seniors because we know, as they get older, things are not getting better, and they need the support around them, the physical, the mental support to help them age gracefully. So we want that option to be available as well.
I
I,
want to.
I and I was gonna say that I really admire the fact that you took the time to really go to the residents. I do want to share a comment. June Bell, who also helped us and assisted, she said, just so you know, this is the first CEO who has walked the housing communities, a refreshing change and well received by our residents.
That is wonderful.
Shout out to Miss Bell. That's my executive assistant, but I guess I'm more like a son to her because she just tells me what I'm gonna do for the day. Uh,
Love it.
and then makes me sign stuff and to keep the process moving around the agency for a number of years. As somebody recently, as yesterday, no, we were on a Zoom call earlier today with with another agency. A young lady had worked for the housing authority back in 95 and say, I know Miss Bell, she's gonna make sure Mr. Duncan get the contact information, get the stuff done. So yeah, she's a great executive assistant. And but yeah, we walk each community. You call it walk with the CEO. Every Tuesday, we get out and knock on doors, and a lot of the residents say, "Wow, that's the first time I ever seen this."
Are you wearing a suit when you
No, no,
so
no, no.
But
And you know, it's funny that you mentioned that. My executive vice president, shout out Terry Walton, who took this job to be the second in command, and came to also from Detroit. And she came and she worked, and she said, I noticed you have been wearing them suits like you used to in Richmond. Say a lot more approachable, and
exactly.
yeah, that's my big sister. I love her to death, and but
how,
say that recently. So just more approachable, but we definitely believe in, and also the staff, getting the staff out there, because your accountants, your purchasing department,
I
your,
love it.
you know, those folks don't see the communities like the property managers do. So they get a chance to get out there and really see what's going on at the agency where they provide their, you know, the work that they do. So that's important. And when you get back to the office, you know, you have a renewed sense of, okay, how my work impacts the end user.
right.
So, you know,
Letting them see what type of impact they're having.
yes,
Now, speaking
or
of
not, or not.
or not,
Yeah.
speaking of impact, how has it impacted the young people to see you come and be in those settings, and how has that experience inspired you to be great at your job?
Well, you know, every time I go on these walls, I find myself with a football in my hand and a bunch of kids to throw it to. You know, it's that's just a part of me that I'm a former athlete. Lord knows I wouldn't dare pick up a ball, a bat, on myself competing. But yeah, you know, we just engage the kids, you know, love the kids. And a lot of us tell us, you know, can you improve the basketball court? Can we get new playground equipment? And so, you know, I tell my staff, I say, this is an opportunity to build trust. If you go out into the community,
Yeah,
young people say, yeah, Mr. D, hey, this all good, but we need new basketball court. And then you make it happen, then you got a level of trust
Trust.
that you didn't have before. So when you come and you talk about revitalization, you talk about uprooting people and moving them from a place that they live, in some cases generationally. You got grandma
right.
and you know, and daughter got their own unit all at the same development in some places. So it can be very challenging. So, but when you start to earn trust, uh, then it makes it just a little more easier on the residents that are being affected by the transformation that you're trying to do.
Something you just had a soft opening in January. Let's talk about that for Gibbs Village. Um, the virtual center, the laptop. And you looking like, what are you talking about?
Nope, nope, nope. It had to, you know, it had. Hey, I told you I was north of 50. What part of that you'll get there? You'll see.
Yeah, I know. You know, maybe well, I got about 10 more years to go. I just had to put that out there.
Gibbs Village Virtual Learning Center. We have a board. Let me start with the board of commissioners. A great group that have been serving for years. Uh, Very serious and adamant about providing quality supportive services for the families, particularly during the time when the kids either going to school, not going to school, most of them not going to school. And, you know, Montgomery schools are in a tough place to begin with. And then you layer a pandemic on top of that, then, you know, you'll find our kids, again, we're talking about the disparities, they don't
Hmm.
have access to internet, don't have laptops, and even if they do, don't have anybody physically there to show them how to work through and navigate. Because if you got a computer, you're gonna have an issue. You know
Right.
that sound familiar. So there are a lot of pitfalls to that. So we find that our children are falling even further behind than typical children are. You know, during the past years. So what we did, we cleaned up the Gibbs Village East Community Center, cleaned it up, bought about 50 Chromebooks and hotspots, and opened that up. And we got volunteers that are helping. It is not being as attended as we would like it to be. We have yard signs out, but we went out knocking on doors and said, hey, you know, you got the virtual center over there. This is what it does. And again, it's not designed to replace the educational system.
Right.
It's designed to enhance and provide support. You know, we're not in the education business, we're in the housing business, but we can provide support. And
Wow.
education is, you know, is one of
to
the
be
core
commended.
pillars you know, of the community. I mean, without a strong education, you know, we don't stand a chance.
Mary Duncan is definitely speaking on behalf of you. She said he has a history of sponsoring basketball tournaments for the residents. He also has a history of sponsoring book clubs and learning clubs for young residents. So, hey, I love it. I love it. Is showing, it is very evident in how you are sharing this information and how thoughtful you are. One thing I've definitely taken from this conversation, and then just in case you are just joining us, you are listening to Hearts and Hills with Yolanda and Shay, and we have Damon E. Duncan, who is in the studio with us. He is the CEO of the Montgomery Housing Authority. He's been telling us about, you know, some challenges he's overcome, but also personally and professionally, just having to come to a new city and in the midst of a pandemic and figure out this city and figure out how to move forward. But one of the things that you have definitely talked about throughout this entire conversation is trust. How you have able to garner trust from your wife in traveling the world with you, from different places where you've been in, and you've had to lead them through that. Just and from what I gather, all the great comments that we're getting from you, you have somehow managed to do that. What inspires you, or how what inspires you, or what is the thing that helps you get to that place where you're getting people involved and trusting and believing in you? What's the secret?
You know what? If I had $100 to give you, uh, to have prevented you from asking that question, I don't know what I don't know if there's any singular thing, but I am a hopeless optimistic. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Very trusting. I believe in people. I always see the best. I always focus on the best, what they provide. Sometimes it costs me. Sometimes it costs me time, money. But I see the best. I always offer a different look, a different way of looking at things, and I can be naive at times because of that. But you know, it used to bother me, but I'm the way that God made me for a reason. There's a need for a person like me, and so I believe that, and I've embraced that now. And that's why I need. You know, my wife looks out for me. I mean, she tells me when, okay, you need to watch out for so and so because you know, they ain't, I know you all good natured and goodwill, but they ain't got your best interests at heart. You know, my big sister Terry Walton does the same thing. You know, she say, hey, D, I don't know about that, you know. So, you know, I got good people around me. God has blessed me to have great people around me. Like I say, and, you know, my faith in family, and my basic, you know, belief in humanity that
Mm-hmm.
we can do better, you know, and the fact that I believe that, you know, and I say this in Richmond all the time, you know, that the people deserve better. And so if God has blessed me with the wherewithal to get a blessing to the people, how am I not going to be blessed in the process if a blessing has to go through me? So I take the responsibility very serious to be positive. There's enough negativity in the world. You can't step out your front door without wanting to cuss somebody out, right? No different. But you know, but I basically embrace, you know, the good naturedness, and I try to seek out. I'm a psychology undergrad, and I try to understand people. I try to understand why they do what they do, and that puts you in a space where
Yeah.
you're more empathetic
Mhm.
and more understanding as opposed to retaliatory or you know, some of the other emotions that come with, you know, people crossing you wrong. But yeah,
Yes.
you know, that shout out that she gave me reminded me, you know, I failed to tell you guys that I may be a CEO today, but I started out in this business as a resident services guy, working directly with the residents, directly with the families, writing grants, um, 3-on-3 basketball tournaments. We did that in Flint, Michigan. Everybody knows where Flint is now. Unfortunately, over there for a number of years and provided some excellent services. One year we secured a grant from the Community Foundation and took about 20 young people uh, to Atlanta, Georgia. First time they ever been on a plane. They went on the HBCU college tour. You know, Morris Brown, Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, Spelman, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had a couple of chaperones. My wife was one of them. We rented a couple of cars and took the kids to the mall and everything, and they spent all their little money at the swap meet. But they got some exposure.
Right.
And, on Facebook today, I hear from some of those young people that have grown up to be responsible men and women and talk about how we've impacted their lives at an early age.
That is wonderful. Are there any current projects that you all are working on Montgomery Housing Authority?
Uh, there are none that we're currently working on outwardly, but there are plans inwardly. The Patterson Court is definitely one, but we have to complete Columbus Square. There are 2 phases of Columbus Square that have been
Let me
completed.
know. Where's Columbus Square?
Columbus, now I don't know all my streets, but I know it's off Bainbridge and.
I know where it is. Okay.
Okay, see, there
Right,
you go.
right.
All I had to do was say one street. I
Yeah.
didn't have to say the cross street.
MPS, the central office, MPS Central, in that area.
Yep.
Okay.
And so there's another phase. There's a big plot of land out back for phase 3. Ms. Walton and I were talking today about some additional parcels that the city owns. The city has pledged through the city's director of planning and development, Robert Smith, any parcels that we need, because we enjoy a great partnership to do some replacement housing or some new housing. They can make that happen for us. So we have that. There's another phase to complete at the plazas at Centennial. There are 27 units. You know, Smiley Court was recently demolished. I was here for the demolition. Shout out to the team that got that Section 18 application through.
I remember Smiley Court back in the day. For all of my Smiley Court family, I say hello. Smiley Court family.
Yeah.
So Columbus,
There's no more.
Yeah.
of course, June Bell has corrected us. She said Columbus Square used to be Trentham Court.
Yeah, Columbus
Yeah.
used to be. Trentham.
Yes.
And the plazas at Centennial used to be Tulane Garden.
Mm. You know,
I don't know about it. Yeah.
Yeah, because one side of Tulane is still there. But
right.
the other side, where the plaza is currently situated, is the former Tulane Gardens.
What do you plan on doing in Smiley Court area?
We don't know. That's a great question. And we were talking as recently.
My grandma lived
this week
out there across the street from the road from the store. It was only one store, so I had to tell that story.
Yeah, it's. I mean, things have really gotten bad over there. The disinvestment over on that west side of 65. But you know what we're doing is we're commissioning highest and best use not only for Smiley Court, but the other vacant parcels, the Cedar Park,
Yeah.
the Cedar Park site, the highest and best use.
Mobile Highway area.
Right.
Let people know.
Okay, hey, Mobile Highway. Hey, I'm a newcomer.
I'll
So
keep naming it.
so are you doing something with the Cedar Park area?
No. What we're going to do is do a highest and best use to determine
I got you.
what is the best use for that particular site. Maybe it's to sell it. Maybe it's to put a grocery store. Maybe it's to put some replacement housing. But again, whatever the highest and best use study, we still have to go to the community and see what the community input. Meet with the various city council district leaders to see what's important, what the citizens are requesting in their communities. But we're in the real estate development business. We're in the supportive services business, and we have and we have great partners with the city, great partners at Alabama State, Trentham Community College. So I believe that we can make something happen. We built hundreds of units across the country, and so building the units is not a problem. It's getting the people on one accord.
On one accord.
And I don't know if you've heard of it, but the area right behind Lanier,
She's talking property now.
that authority and that is houses right in that area.
I don't think so. If any of my listeners listen, Ms. Bell, anybody behind Lanier on the tracks, I don't think that.
No. our Felicia Martin said no.
Hey, help me.
So we giving you ideas of future projects. That's what it is.
Oh, oh, wish list of what you like to see happen. Okay.
You know, Damon E. Duncan. I got to call your whole name, Mr. Damon E. Duncan, CEO.
Call my whole name.
Thank you so much for being here. If you could believe it, we're almost only like 5 minutes away from ending the hour of the show. So we come to this place where we definitely want to. So I'm gonna share this comment, and then I want to get some comments from you. Terry Walton said Damon's name in my cell is the Good Reverend Dr. Deacon Damon Duncan. I gave him that name 20 years ago. His spirit and the call on his life resonated at our first introduction. He is a believer in doing good. And you know what? I can say that, we have definitely enjoyed experiencing you, and we're glad to be a part of getting the word out. We're excited about what you're doing in Patterson Court and the energy that you're bringing to the Montgomery Housing Authority and the direction that you want to take it. It's good to have people who are concerned about the residents, who are allowing the residents to not allowing, but wanting the residents to take a really big role in this project and where it's going. It's going to make a difference for the city, for the university, for everybody, the residents that are impacted. It is going to be a big deal here in Montgomery. So we're excited. Anytime you want to come share your project, so just come talk to us. Remember, you're always welcome here at Hearts and Hills, okay?
All right.
All right. Now, Damon, as we end, I want you to talk about this, because you have talked about your faith and trust. I mean, we've talked about a lot of things, and I have a lot of questions that we'll have to talk about after. We have to go, and I have to take you and your wife to dinner so I can learn more about you, pick your brain a little bit. But if you would just share a little encouragement to the people, just about keeping their faith, about, getting through trying times, seeing the other side, even though you've been speaking and dropping wisdom this entire show. If you would just do a little encouragement before we go off the air.
Well, I definitely want to, first of all, acknowledge those that have lost loved ones and family and friends during the pandemic. My heart goes out to you. It's been a very trying year. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, my wife and I were sitting in front of CNN, like most of you, glued to CNN for several hours of the day and just watching those numbers go up. And I just kept feeling a sense of, wow, if these folks are going through anything remotely close to what I went through a couple of years ago, and being unable to be with their loved ones in the hospital, as they take their last breath, unable to gather at funeral homes, and all of that just made for a very, very, very trying time. And so I first want to say our hearts and prayers are with you, even though the pandemic is a little old now. It's not as fresh as it once was, but our compassion is with those that lost loved ones during this time. But I believe we owe it to them, to continue to make good use of the time that we do have, by doing for others, by caring for others, being more considerate of others, not just thinking of ourselves. And I think that's where the greatest blessing comes in, is when you think about how you can be a blessing to someone else. And so if I could leave you with anything, it would be that, to think of how you can be a blessing to someone else, and start at home. No better place than to start at home. If we're going to revitalize new communities, it starts in the home. So if I could leave you with anything, it would definitely be that.
We again say thank you, Mr. Damien.
Now you put 3 syllables.
She did. I said it right.
She put
Damon E. Duncan. Chief Executive Officer.
She changed her name.
We thank you for your wisdom and your service to our communities.
Thank you for having me, and hopefully I haven't said anything that would prevent you guys from inviting me back. Thank you for having me. God bless you.
Now, look, we'll be back here on Hearts and Hills next week. We got something great for you. We have been talking about faith in the midst of the fight. We've had guests to talk about everything from their COVID experiences to their leadership experiences to overcoming being separated from their father when they were young. I mean, we've had some wonderful conversations. So make sure you stick with us and stay with us. Next week, we got some more things coming. We have a great author that will be here in the following week. We have Reverend Dr. Willie Welch, who will be in in the studio hanging out with us. We just got some great things coming. We love you guys. Remember, whatever you do, do it with all your heart. Give it all you got. And ladies, remember to use your 6 inches to step on the devil's neck when he tries to roar his little head in the midst of your situation. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Definitely not the same way. It just gets better and better. We love you guys. Good night.
Good night. It's Pentecost Sunday.
It is.